Hello EFD squad and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topic in European football. It's the first one of the year. Let's blow out the cobwebs, lads, starting with Captain Gunnar, who's asked, will Bayern sign Timo Werner in January, and could that push them towards the title? Of course, currently 6 points behind Dortmund in the race for the Bully. Now, Oliver Mintzlaff says that Werner will be sold unless he signs a new deal. That's the CEO of RB Leipzig. His contract expires in 2020 and he's reportedly available for under 50 million euros as a result, which
that's crazy.
I think I speak for all of us when I say that would be an absolute steal. So, Lewandowski, Sandro, 30, 31 respectively. Joe, do you see him going to Bayern Munich or elsewhere?
I think, look, he's spoken in the past, hasn't he? I remember Werner coming out maybe even just a month or 2 months ago and saying there's only one club in Germany that I'll go to if I leave, obviously inferring that he will go to Bayern Munich if possible. But there are plenty of other clubs out there looking for a 9 at the moment. I look at Chelsea, very keen on a number 9. Clearly Morata's not fitting in there. Giroud's getting no younger, and Hazard, whether or not he's going to stay remains to be seen, and doesn't want to play as a false 9 even if he does stay. Real Madrid, probably looking for a 9 with Benzema being phased out and obviously the sale of Ronaldo last summer. I think, judging by quite a lot of the reports, that he might end up at Liverpool. Which is a strange move. We discussed it a little bit off camera before we started, because not necessarily an out-and-out starter really for Liverpool, given Bobby Firmino's form and some of the other quality they've got going forward. But Jürgen Klopp is employing an incredible rotation policy this season, and if he wants to do it next season, if I was Liverpool and he's available for that fee, I would be all over Timo Werner.
Yeah, I agree with the latter sentiment. If he's available for 50, go and get him.
Yeah.
But surely it's more dependent on Klopp's system than actual personnel. Like, okay, he's a better 9 than Firmino, but is he a better 9 in Klopp's system pattern?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, the way Firmino plays, it facilitates, Salah's game. Like Salah, having Salah as the primary goal scorer last season worked because Firmino was willing not to be the primary goal scorer. If you have Werner there, Werner can be reasonably creative, but he is a goal scorer, and that's why you have him in the side. He's a shot monster. That's why you have him in the side. So to me, Real Madrid or Chelsea make much more sense because, I could see him playing in a Sarri system. You could almost see him as combining the best of somebody like Arkadiusz Milik and Dries Mertens, when they both played under Sarri at Napoli. He's obviously mobile, versatile, can play off the wing, he's fast, and he's going to grow into that side. But Real Madrid seems like the obvious place to me. I'm just not sure I buy this price tag, because if Christian Pulisic, whose contract ends at the same time, went in January with a loan back for the rest of the season for 64 million euros, why would Timo Werner, whose output is about 3 times better than Pulisic's right now, why would he go for less than that? That doesn't make sense to me at all. I think, yes, he's going to have a year left on his contract in the summer, but if somebody buys him in January, I expect him to go for at least 80 million. It just seems very strange.
His numbers have got exponentially better as well, haven't they? 3.7 shots per 90 this season, 2.9 of them from inside the box. No doubt Sarri will be looking at those predatory instincts. They'll be top of his list, won't they? He actually said about Alvaro Morata, or about his strikers in general, that maybe one day we'll play a striker with Eden Hazard up front, which is very damning of the personnel he's got now, and kind of shows that he is still shopping around for a striker. But it's interesting that you both sort of mentioned Real Madrid and Chelsea, because this could cause a merry-go-round, right? Especially if Eden Hazard goes to Real Madrid. Then does Timo Werner go to Chelsea? Or do Real Madrid need Timo Werner more than they need Eden Hazard, Joe?
I think that Real Madrid are going to splash a lot of cash in the summer, and if Werner's available for sub 50 million euros, they'll get both of them if they can. Eden Hazard to play on that left-hand side, and Werner potentially as a more out-and-out 9.
If they get a new manager, though, they're going to trust Solari with a massive war chest.
They're definitely going to get a new manager, though, aren't they?
I
don't think Solari's going to stay long-term. I think it's a little bit.
They're going to be your competition for Pochettino.
Yeah, I think they're just filling a gap in a similar way as we are with Solskjaer until Pochettino becomes available. But let's not discount Bayern Munich either, because that's what Captain Goon has asked about, and that's the most obvious fit in Germany. And if he wants to stay in Germany as most German footballers do, they end up at Bayern Munich. It's kind of just, on a plate for him, isn't it? Lewandowski being phased out, he'll get plenty of game time under Kovac.
But that's the thing. Do you have faith that Lewandowski would be phased out? So, for instance, they bought Kingsley Coman, they've bought wingers over the years, and none of them have displaced Robben and Ribery, who are now in their mid-30s. And yes, they're leaving at the end of the season, but they've still played a lot. And when they're fit, they're still basically seen as starters. And Lewandowski is getting on, but he's quite a bit younger than that. He's 30. And his game's never been about pace. I reckon he'll still be able to find space in the box. So what if you go there and then you have to wait another 2 or 3 years before you're starting for Bayern Munich? I would think I can go to Real Madrid. If they buy me now, there's no way that I'm going to be behind Mariano Diaz. Karim Benzema is clearly heading for the scrap heap. And I'm probably going to get to play with another superstar who I agree with you. I think they're going to buy 2 superstars this summer because they've got nobody outside of Isco who is youngish and capable of putting up big attacking numbers.
Yeah.
Not even Asensio
aging in the same way as Suarez, isn't he? Just getting incrementally worse in terms of shot numbers and shots inside the box, but good enough to start for another 1-2 years.
I think we're all in agreement. I think Real Madrid is probably the ideal destination for Werner. But there's something in my head that just said don't discount Liverpool.
Atleti would be fine as well.
I feel like Liverpool are going to sign him. I don't know why. It's just maybe it's just a bit of gut instinct. It's telling me that that's a weird Klopp signing.
The only thing that puts me off Bayern is that they've bid £30 million this morning for Callum Hudson-Odoi, so they've gone from 13 to 23 to 30 million. If Timo Werner's available for 50, surely they get to the point where they say he's worth going for as opposed to Hudson-Odoi. Now I know they need wide talent, but we've said that Timo Werner can play wide, and if they bet him into the side in a wide position with a view to moving central, similar to Mbappe at PSG, which he's good enough to do. It might be to the detriment of his output, but he's probably still going to get 15 goals from the wing, isn't he? If he plays a little bit further out wide, or Kovac could change system. I just think, I don't know, have Bayern are they in for him, like all in for him? Doesn't feel like it.
No, because if they were all in for him, you feel like they could get him.
They sound out of the business so early, though, don't they?
But it's possible as well that Leipzig would kind of ask for a higher fee to sell him within Germany. Like they might actually they might well say to Real Madrid, okay, you can have him for 60 mil or whatever, but Bayern, if you want him, we want 100. It's perfectly possible they do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's Bild reporting that the 35 million to 50 million fee, which is they're pretty reliable within Germany.
But that's mayhem.
That is a crazily small fee for a player of his calibre when Raul Jimenez is going for 38 million euros. So who knows? But I reckon that Werner's going to end up at Liverpool. I've just got a gut feeling.
I just don't see why.
Any other clubs, Pato? I mean, Paris, Saint-Germain, you imagine Mbappe's going to play through the middle. Juventus, maybe?
I doubt it. I mean, they've invested so heavily in Ronaldo, and they're going to have another big earner coming in Aaron Ramsey. I just think that they're not really going to go out and shell this money unless they get rid of Dybala or Benedeschi, one of these guys. I mean, even still, there's too much competition there. Like I said, Atletico Madrid have really fallen off this season. We're not talking about them at all. And to be honest, they've been pretty bad. Like the attacking output from all their players has not been great, which I think is a function of how the team's playing rather than those
Costa
players.
has embodied that, hasn't he?
Well, and Correa as well, who was looking like he was going to be a star. So, but I could see Timo Werner being great in that kind of system, I would be interested to see that happen. But to me, it's just he's incredibly fast, intelligent, young, shot monster. Real Madrid.
Yeah, it kind of makes perfect sense, doesn't it? It would be nice to see him dovetail with Antoine Griezmann. What a pacey, diminutive front line that'd be. But guys, where do you think Timo Werner will end up? Vote in the poll just above all the top options in there, baby. We move on to quick fire questions then. The first one comes from @SaturnNeon96, and he's asked, out of Milan, Roma and Lazio, who'd take the 4th Champions League spot? Now at the moment, the table looks like this, gentlemen. Juventus in top on 53 points, Napoli second 44, Inter third 39, and then there's a 7-point gap that falls to Lazio in 4th, AC Milan are 1 point behind that, Roma a point behind them. So what do we think, Patrick Van Straan? Who is going to secure that last prestigious place for elite level European football?
Of those 3 sides, I'd be inclined to say Lazio. Roma probably got the deepest squad, but I think Lazio are probably the best balanced overall. I mean, Milan have the best defence of the three, but the worst attack. Roma have the best attack, but the worst defence. And Lazio are just pretty competent in both regards. Plus, the first half of the season, a bunch of their guys underperformed. And I don't mean like they were bad. I mean like they just weren't scoring or assisting when you'd expect them to. Like Luis Alberto didn't really pick up on where he left off last season, but he's still creating, I think, something like 3.5 chances a game, which is insane. I think that Milinkovic-Savic is supposedly going to be coming back into form, and of the three clubs,
2 in his last 3, Milinkovic-Savic.
Yeah, and of the 3 clubs as well, I think they have the best coach. I think Simone Inzaghi is quite a bit better than Di Francesco, and certainly better than Gattuso. Whether they do any business in January remains to be seen. They probably also have the least money of those 3 clubs, so that could be a factor. But generally speaking, Lazio are just solid and competent. I'd actually say that Inter are really lucky not to be in this fight. Inter don't look, by the stats, any better than those 3 sides, but they've just managed to pick up some points that you wouldn't have expected them to. In fact, I'd be interested to throw Atalanta in there as well, who have been spectacular at various stages this season. The other day beat Sassuolo 6-2 away from home.
Nice.
And they've got Musa Barrow,
But
they've
Papu
got
might leave in
Ilicic,
January,
they've got
mate.
Papu. Where's he going to go?
Well, I think rumours have emerged that a lucrative
China.
offer from China.
China.
One last payday is
China.
coming up for big Papu Gomez.
I love
but
Papu
he-
Gomez.
Such a talisman, isn't it? He's like their Totti. He's brilliant.
But they've got loads of other talent, and I do think that they're just a really well-run club, and I think that it would be lovely if they could finish in the top 4 one of these years. But I'd have as much faith in them doing it as Roma, to be honest, at the moment, because Roma are all over the place, and I just don't think Di Francesco is very good, and I think that actually like Monchi's first season there has been a bit all over the shop. I think they made some weird signings, some weird sales. So I don't know. I kind of hope that of those 3, Lazio does it.
Echoes of Lazio, Schick's coming into form with Roma. They've recovered well, haven't they, despite
Schick
only
does look
winning one of their first 5 games. So it's definitely starting to heat up the race. Teams are starting to find form after faltering starts. And you're right, Lazio, maybe not doing business or as much business in Roma might be their biggest hindrance, because I've only seen them being linked with Zappacosta from Chelsea. And that is not a very exciting window, is it? Quick question for Joe chimes in. What do you think of Cengiz Under being linked to Arsenal for 55 million euros?
He's a good young player, but he's not worth that at the moment. Like he has the potential to turn into a player who's worth that, but he's not worth that right now, and you have no guarantee he will turn into that guy. I think expected goals and assists per 90 at the moment is just under 0.5, which is good. And he's 21, but his shot locations are horrific. He shoots like Suso, whose shot locations are also dreadful, and you just have to coach that out of him. He's also not a great dribbler. I think he completes about 1.5 dribbles a game, which is okay, but for a winger, it's not really what you want. At least when you think about Chelsea buying Pulisic, he has not had an amazing season in terms of goal scoring or creation, but he is still a top-level dribbler.
You can see his numbers bouncing
back. He's absolutely incredible. And also, he's always going to give you ball progression because he can always beat his man. So if I were Arsenal, I'd be looking for somebody who had big dribble numbers as well as big creative numbers. And I think, look, there are question marks about Nicolas Pepe as well. He's dropped off a little bit recently. And, if you wanted to try and go and get Malcolm out of Barcelona, you might have issues there too. But overall, I just think that when I look at Under, especially for that money, I'd rather take gambles. In fact, not even gambles. I can find you 2 guys whose numbers are just as good at clubs that are worse for about half the money.
Yeah. I think it'd be weird for Roma to let him depart at this juncture. Now, 55 million euros is a great fee.
Not for that money,
but they are struggling on the attacking end, aren't they? I think Kolarov is their second highest scorer at the moment with 4 goals. Edin Dzeko's only scored 1 goal with his last 33 shots. And Cengiz Under, not exactly a shot monster. I think he's averaging a couple per game, but definitely one of their more productive forwards. So it would be a case of what can Monchi do with this 55 million euros. And at the moment, they're struggling, aren't they, to find good return on investments with the sort of signings he's made so far. Joe, who are you going to opt for, mate? Anyone that we've mentioned, or?
I think it's going to depend on this window pretty heavily. I think if Milan invest correctly, then it's theirs for the taking.
Oh.
I think Milan had a horrible summer, really, other than potentially bringing in... I don't think Higuain was the worst transfer, to be honest. But equally, I think some of their other moves were pretty poor. I think the investment over the last 18 months has been so it's going to depend on who they invest in. Now, they're linked pretty heavily to Carrasco, aren't they? And we're quite a fan of that move.
That'd be good.
Where's he at the moment? China, is he?
Yeah.
Still in China?
Dalian Yifang.
So if they can bring Carrasco in, I think that's a pretty decent move. Some of the other players they've been linked to, obviously, they were linked to Morata. That move now seems to be off, doesn't it? Sensi, Moise Kean. I think Moise Kean probably a bit too raw.
Bit too green to make a big impact, yeah.
I think, is he still 18, maybe 19 now?
Yeah, I think his most prolific spell was on loan at, I think maybe Hellas Verona, a club of that level where he scored 4 or 5 goals in 15, 16 appearances. So one for the future, but not
I think it's going to depend pretty heavily on this window. If AC Milan finally spend smartly and the Chinese owners put their hand in the pocket and
American owners now.
Is it American owners now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is American owners now, isn't it? Yeah. If they put their hand in the pocket and start spending wisely, then it's theirs for the taking. As good as Roma have been, like Pato said, I don't think it's quite gelled there. They're lacking Edin Dzeko's goal numbers. I think how many's he got this season in total? 2?
Yeah.
In total, which is just not really good enough, is it?
So he did have some injuries.
Sampdoria, I think, a little way off. I know that they're challenging. What are they, 29 points, something like that? But I think that Milan can take 4th spot this season if they spend well in January.
Only lost to Juventus in the last 7.
Yeah, they've got to spend a lot of money though, because otherwise I think it will be Lazio.
I've not checked back in on AC for a while. When I last sort of delved into their numbers, it was for the podcast, and at that moment in time, Gattuso was reverting to a 4-4-2. Cutrone looked absolutely essential in terms of injecting pace and energy in that forward line. Higuain looked a little bit stagnant. Now, Higuain's numbers had declined pretty steeply, hadn't they, before they signed him? So we did say there was maybe cause for concern with how much expectation they were putting on his signing, and it does feel like now they prefer Morata at the club to Higuain, and you've noted that Higuain might be a target for Chelsea still.
Well, that was the reports, wasn't it? I think that's probably
hasn't it?
I think that's probably off the table now. I don't think that's going to happen. But that was reported a few weeks ago. I just think they're drawing too many games, AC Milan. I think they've drawn 7 games so far this season, and they look okay at the back. I think they've conceded the least of any of the teams we've talked about, 20 goals this season. But going forward, they're just struggling.
Romagnoli's been a beast this season.
Yeah, they're just struggling to put together coherent attacks. So. If they can start scoring goals and sign a player like Carrasco in January, I think it's theirs for the taking, because I think all of the teams we've mentioned are pretty average.
Yeah, they've just secured Paqueta, haven't they, for 35 million euros.
Is he training now? Has he actually arrived?
Yeah, Paqueta really lands, and just starts playing like a top quality player, then that could make the difference. Or if Under turns into the player that everyone seems to think he is, but which he isn't.
Because I've also seen that a host of Premier League clubs are considering moves for Franck Kessié, who is obviously the beating heart of that AC Milan midfield, despite the Chelsea loanee Bakayoko having a bit of a renaissance in the last couple of months. They absolutely battered him at the start, didn't they? And rightly so. Some of his performances when he came on were absolutely hounding. But he's recovered quite well out there. So it'd be interesting to see if any swap deals, any make-ways occur there. But that wasn't exactly a quick-fire question, was it, lads? So let's move on pretty quickly to Ryan McCee's question. And I don't know how he submitted this on Twitter, because this is definitely more than 240 characters. Do you think Virgil van Dijk has a case for best player in the world for 2018, considering the impact he has made, not just to the Liverpool team since his arrival, but also to the impact he's made on the Dutch national team? Now, some historic wins, let's say, at least in modern history, over Germany and France recently, Pat, for the Netherlands. Yeah, how essential was he to those victories, or was it a case of Koeman just kind of reinventing the system a little bit?
Well, I mean, Koeman tends to build a pretty solid defensive side, and it's not just Van Dijk. Obviously, he's got De Ligt next to him, which is not exactly a bad central defensive pairing to have. Van Dijk has been excellent. He had a really amazing 2018, but I think that Liverpool's defence also would have improved without him in 2018. They pretty much changed around 3 out of their 4 defenders at the beginning of the year. And I think Robertson was obviously a big upgrade on Moreno. Trent Alexander-Arnold was a big upgrade on Klein, and Van Dijk was a key player as well. But actually, in terms of expected goals conceded per game, they've been basically exactly the same all along, around 0.8. And it's really them getting a bit of a fortunate swing so far this season, which has put their defence where it is. And it's also the influence of Alisson too. So, I don't know, the best player in the world, to be the best player in the world, he's got to have had a better year than
Messi.
Messi. And even if we leave out players like Messi and just talk about defenders, somebody like Varane, who had a pretty damn good year. Not so great the last half of the season, but I don't know. The best player in the world last year, Virgil van Dijk, no, you're being ridiculous.
People are getting a little bit carried away with this Liverpool side. Bit of a dose of reality last night, losing to Manchester City. What do you make of the game quickly, Joe, before we wrap this up? You enjoy it?
I thought it was a great game. One of the best games I've watched in a long time. The intensity was a madness. I don't know what Bernardo Silva's on, but I want some of it because he ran 14k last night, didn't he? It was absolutely outrageous.
Very busy little bee.
Also, Fernandinho just seems to be getting better with age. Every game I watch Fernandinho, he's the best player on the pitch. And he, for me, has been the best central midfielder in the league this season. And at 33 now?
Yeah, 33.
That is no mean feat in a Pep Guardiola system.
Yeah, he was everywhere last night, wasn't he? He was breaking up everything, just anticipating
Just
a lot of dangerous play, wasn't he? I don't think they would have weathered sort of some of those storms in the first 20, maybe middle 20 of the second half without him, for sure. He was a standout performer for you as well, wasn't he, Pat?
Yeah, Fernandinho last night, I just couldn't. It's weird, isn't it, that when you start watching a player and just everything they do seems to be perfect, and every time there was just a ball lumped into midfield, suddenly Fernandinho was under it, and he's so good at inviting pressure, at playing through the lines, at being in the right place at the right time. Like the one bad moment for Fernandinho in the night might have been when Liverpool won the ball high up, and arguably you could say that he was fouled, when Firmino kind of tumbled over him. That was the one moment when Fernandinho wasn't where you wanted him to be, which is pretty much the sign of an incredible performance.
I think it showed how good him and Bernardo Silva have been this season in midfield. I actually thought David Silva was pretty poor last night. I didn't think David Silva had a great game. And I thought Bernardo Silva and Fernandinho were covering for him a lot. And when he got hooked for Ilkay, I was surprised that wasn't KDB coming on.
Yeah. I mean, Fernandinho returned, right, as well last night, along with
he's been out injured for a little
They
while.
both played against Southampton, both those players.
Returning. But, Fernandinho's performance pretty virtuoso. Right. That's it for this week's Continental Club. Guys, if you enjoyed this, then why not go and watch Stat Wars, the league. We Need to Talk is coming out. It's probably already out on Football Daily.
Maybe an hour ago,
Joe finished a script and, all that good stuff. So, see you in a bit. Bye.